Thank you. And good news, if you're still on your after-lunch dip, this next 10 minutes is going to be lightning fast, so you'll have fun. And welcome to my talk, I suck at coding and still won the Spaces Championship. Say, what? But before we get how we got there, I want to rewind the clock for 20 years and look at a remarkable feat in sports. Because in 2002, the Oakland A's won a lot of things that they were to win. Not only did they win their own league, of which you now see the final place, they actually won 20 matches in a row, which to this date has only happened 5 times in over a century of baseball. But the most impressive feat for me still is they did this on a shoestring budget. They had a lot less money to spend than all the top teams, so they had to be smarter about that. And how they did that, of course, now has been popularized under the name of Moneyball. A great movie to watch because you get to see Brad Pitt in his prime. And otherwise, a great inspiring story. And it's talks like these that always get me hyped. So we'll look at those today. Because my name is Eric. I work at Bol as the head of data science. I have a background in physics. But most importantly, I am overly competitive with too little skills. To the point that I even hate to lose to my kids at board games. So I'm always looking for an edge. And I tend to look at sports to gain that edge because that's where people get to be competitive. That's where they need to win. So to do that, let's look at a few familiar faces. Who of you recognizes one of these 3 faces? Oh, you do. Which one? I'll trust you that you actually do. But we'll have a quick introduction in who we see here today. Because these 3 individuals actually won at their game by being smarter and being different. First off, we're looking at Dick Fosbury. His name might already ring a bell. He competed in the high jump. And if you look back over 100 years, what did the high jump actually look like? These are the Olympics of 130 years ago. People were just jumping over the bar. Legs first, everything after. 30 years later, you saw that both women got to compete, but people were already starting to do more of a roll around that, a barrel roll, and got higher and higher and higher. But they hit a plateau until Dick Fosbury came along. And as I mentioned, I have a background in physics. I love this guy. He understood how high jump works. He developed a technique that allowed him for his body to move over the crossbar, while his point of gravity actually moved under the bar. And as an effect, was able to jump higher. And this has now been popularized as the Fosbury flop, a new way to do high jumps. And he actually won the gold medal in 1968 with his technique, which has now been superfluous for everyone competing in the high jump. So what he did, and what he did really well, is he got his game. He knew it was not about giving everything over the bar, but just the parts that don't touch it. The second one up for the list, especially for the Dutchies and a familiar one, is Tony de Jong. And Tony de Jong popularized a very important and now indeed well-known part of skating, which in the next video is in Dutch, I'm sorry, but it was too good not to use.
Nee, ik overweeg het niet om erop te gaan rijden. Waarom niet? Nou, ik heb het al een paar keer geprobeerd. Ik voel gewoon meteen dat het niks is voor mij.
And this was indeed Dutch skater Rientje Ritsma telling us, nah, I tried the club skate, not for me, it's probably for someone else. And that was the tendency back then in ice skating. It's a technical innovation, but no one really needs it. But some people indeed saw it for their true power. Some people indeed took their time and actually leveraged it to its full potential, up to the point that Tony de Jong indeed became an all-round skating champion for 2 years in a row. And once she did that during using the club skate, everyone knew that, hey, our game of skating has improved, has changed, and we now need to follow suit. But what she did really well, when she started with that skate, also for her it felt different, it felt odd, it felt off. But she knew if I'm going to persevere with this, I will be better. So what she did really well is she invested in a new skill to be better at her game. The third one up, and hopefully is that the one that you were thinking of? Oh, there you go. Jan Boklöv, and I'm probably mispronouncing this one as well. He competed in the long jump, in ski jumping, which I also found some footage of from the 1930s, and that just looks plain dangerous and different. It's not so much jumping, it's just people falling from a hill, right? Like, ah, I don't know what's happening. I love this example. And it's the sport here again, it's about two things. It's about jumping far and doing it pretty. You are supposed to have two skis side by side whilst you jump. And your total score is a combination of both the distance that you jump, but also how you do it. But what he realized was that the balance between the two was off. What if I sacrifice some points in appearance and invest them in distance? And he actually popularized the now well-known V-shaped way of flying, which allowed him to jump a lot further at the expense of some points in style. And that, in the end, made sure that Jan Boklöv became the world championship in ski jumping in both 1988 and 1989, because he understood and really well how the game worked, and he focused on where he could add the most value. 4 minutes. Need to go faster, sorry. So these are three sports legends that actually changed their game and were able to beat it and win by it. Which sounds fun, but why do we care? Well, as I mentioned, I'm quite competitive. I like coding, I suck at it, and I wanted to win. But where is the best way to actually try if you can win? What is the biggest thing that you can achieve? Because there's no Olympics for coding. You go for the next best thing, which of course is the Spaces Championship. If you haven't yet signed up for October 10th, the new round, that's where I try to apply these types of learnings to see if I could win the game. So the second chapter indeed is winning at coding. For me, I need to explain real briefly what a Spaces Championship is all about. You get a set of clear assignments to solve, and I'll show one example in a second. You have a set of public and hidden tests, so you can validate whether your code actually works and solves the challenge. The difficulty that you have is increasing in complexity, and you are allowed to Google for a syntax, for how does this piece of code work. You're not allowed to Google for entire pieces of algorithm. Plain, straightforward, fun to do, sign up, you should. So basically what I did in the end with an AI was cheating, I know, but that's fun. So let's look at one example of those assignments. And what the team always does really well is they tailor it slightly towards the bold context. Here they had a challenge where they say, we're going to change the name, we're going to strip away the .com from bol. How much ink would that save if we print this on paper? And make a function that does that for every company that would strip their .com, .nl, .something from it. Okay, fair enough, clear description. And to start off, having a clear description like this already proves 1 point. This is getting your game. Getting to someone that says, hey, I need a function that does something, and you are actually able to translate that into a clear description, is getting your game. Keep that one in mind. So I figured, okay, we now have a coding assistant, AI, that can basically solve everything for us, right? They're magic. So let's do this. I tell it, solve this challenge and see what happens. And I know I typed it in the back. There it's quite small, but trust me. What I do, I go to Gemini. There you go. Cheers from Google, they liked it. I say, solve this challenge. I copy the entire challenge that I have. It gives me back indeed a description and some Python code to do that. Then it's a simple matter of copying that code and putting that back into the challenge. And then I ask it to solve it. And then the tests, of course, all turn crap, red. Trust me, that's a single pixel left. That's a red thing. Right. So this was going to be about me winning. It wasn't. Crap. Now what? All right, prompting is important. So we're going to do more prompting and see if we can do that, right? I have a better prompt. I give that to my AI, and then I don't have enough time to show that. I know, so I'm skipping this example. I'm doing another iteration of my prompt, and now I give it this. You are an expert Python programmer. You can write clean code. You get an example input, and the challenge to solve is this. And then what happens? I invest in my skill. I learn how important it is to write a clear prompt and give clear instructions to what the machine needs to do. And when I try this, of course, in Gemini, I paste in that new prompt. Again, I copy in the entire assignment that it has. I say run. It thinks for a few seconds. And then let's see what it actually does. When I copy the code, give that back to HackerRank. I know. and then see what all the tests do. Oh, yes, all green. This is progress, right? This is good. So now I've tested a new skill, I've invested in it, and now what do I do to win? Basically, the next step is solve all the challenges, right? Because now I've invested, now I've learned it, can I now do a lot more at scale? So again, I go to the same website, I go to the different list of challenges, I take a different one. At this time, I'm not even going to read the challenge. Best practice, right? I'm going to put that into an external tool again. More best practices, it's going to be great. I'm not even going to look at the output, because I've trained it to be a coding assistant. I say run, and see what happens. God, yes, all greens. Apparently, I've now been able to build a system that allows me to solve challenges really, really fast. The important thing, though, is that, yes, I'm skipping a few best practices, but what is important in this part is that I have focused on where I add value. I've added all the tests in there that basically allow me to assess that, hey, if as long as it meets all of those, the actual implementation I don't care so much about. It's about those tests where I look at speed, at performance, at quality, at output, at edge cases, where I add most value. So that's a small recap of where I think you can also be winning at your coding game. By getting your game and how things work, by investing in skills and putting the time to change, and by focusing on value. And I've had to skim over a lot of fancy details and very needed considerations of ethical use of coding. And when you test and when you understand it, I know I only had 10 minutes and already took 12, and someone is looking at me very awkwardly. But this is how I believe that you can win, something that is reproducible, and I can also help you to become better at your coding game. Enjoy the rest of your Spacer Summit and have a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Another hand of applause for Erick Webbe, please. Yes.